Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Welcome. I hope you can see and hear me. Just going to put this out there. Okay. So once I have a confirmation of hearing and seeing me, we can get started. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Mm. All right. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Please confirm you can hear and see me, and we'll get started right away. We have a very, very critical topic today that can go a long way in impacting how your child enjoys learning or if they do enjoy learning. Thank you for confirming. Thank you so much, Temitope. Thank you. All right, so we're discussing today correcting your child. How and when should you do it? My name is Nkem Sinachiago, and I'm the founder of the Montessori Home Education Academy, where I run the Montessori Home Education Program. And today we're going to be discussing this very important topic that really impacts how much your child loves learning and if they're able to even initiate the concept of learning on their own. So, correcting your child when and how. This month we are focused on the Montessori principles in the Montessori home education program. So we're just also sharing bits and pieces here and there for everybody to still benefit a little bit. Of course, it's not like being in the program; those who are there will confirm. But we're going to be sharing some with you, how you should correct your child, when you should correct your child, and to even begin, if you should correct your child. So we're going to start with the last question, which is, should you correct your child? Hello, thank you, Fisaya, for confirming. Glad you're here too. We just have one question to start. Should you correct your child? Yes or no? Let us know in the chat. Should you correct your child? Once I see one response, we go ahead. Welcome, everybody joining us. You're welcome. The question is, should you correct your child? And then the second question would be, how often do you correct your child in a day? This one, we need a poll for it. How often do you correct your child in a day? Correcting on anything, whatever it is, yes. Okay, if science says yes, we should correct our children. Yes, yes, okay. Good. And how many times are we doing this, or should we do this in a day? And I think starting on the first question, should we correct our children? I think definitely yes. So it's now a matter of how often, when, and how. Because ultimately, correcting our children, while it can be beneficial, if we do it in the wrong way or at the wrong frequency, it can actually now begin to have negative effects instead of the positive that we are hoping for. You may find yourself saying, "How many times have I told you this?" And if you're in that boat, of course, you want to stay through the session and really listen to see what can be changed to avoid frustration, both for the adults and the child as well. So, should you correct your child? Yes, you should at some point or in certain instances. But ultimately, I think what I would like to start by sharing is, what are the things you can do to reduce the frequency of correction? Because as we're going to find out, the more we correct our children, in fact, the more we correct anybody, even an adult, the more we tamper with their confidence, the more we tamper with their interest in a particular thing, um, the more we even sort of the more we even sort of impacts how our whole relationship goes, how our teaching goes. Imagine if you're correcting somebody every day. Let's even picture your spouse. If you're correcting your spouse every day. So sometimes these things are even beyond children. Of course, our focus here is children, 0 to 6 years for a start. But imagine if you are corrected every time you do a particular, let's say you do a particular thing. I think I've shared maybe before with cooking. If every time you cook and someone is just poking their eyes in the pot, like, oh, put this, put that. Have you put this? This is tasting this way already. Of course, you're going to lose interest in either cooking altogether or maybe you lose interest in cooking for that specific person, or when that specific person is around. Now imagine a child, maybe whenever they are writing, whenever they are reading, whenever they're maybe doing the dishes, and then it's like, hold the sponge like this, bend the soap the other way. Even you, the adult, is probably going to get tired and you'll be wondering, how many times will I tell this child this simple thing? It's so simple. Why wouldn't they listen? So ultimately, even if corrections are necessary sometimes, we want to make sure we don't find ourselves in that situation of having to do it all the time. So I think someone mentioned, yeah, Timothy mentioned, instead of correcting regularly, teach. Yes, that's actually one of our points. You're ahead of us. So I'm going to share three main things that you should do to reduce the need for correction in the first place. We're talking about children, but of course, you're going to find out that this applies to adults as well. You just have to tailor it a bit. Now, the first thing you need to do is control of error. So, control of error is one of the Montessori principles that really talks about controlling, I'll say, controlling the error in an item. So, for example, if you have a puzzle that has four pieces, let's say a jigsaw puzzle, those four pieces can only fit in the right way. Any other way you put those four pieces, it's not going to work, which means if a child is working with it, when they are correct, when they are done, they will know they are done. If they are not getting it, they will also know they are not getting it. They don't need you to tell them, oh, you finished this puzzle, but it's not done, it's not staying properly. They can see for themselves if the image ended up upside down because it won't even align, right? So that is a control of error that we tend to find in a lot of puzzles, especially the good puzzles, because some other puzzles where it's just, of course, there's room for open-ended toys, right? Something like sand, playing with sand, there's not too much control of error, apart from maybe putting the sand in a bin so that the child doesn't spill it all over the place. But that's not so controlled. But something like typical puzzles, typical activities that children work with, they should be able to tell when they are done by themselves so that you don't have to come and poke each time. The same thing with a lot of other things that we do. If, for instance, like I remember some time ago showing maybe our daughter how to wash a plate, which was something we were just playing with, oh, washing, because they enjoy the water play, the soap, and everything. So I said, okay, this is how we wash, right? You go round and round. We have two bowls. We have a bowl with soapy water, another bowl with water for rinsing, and then a drying rack. So this is, you show the example. You go round and round because already showing the motion to use in washing makes a big difference. If you just give them the sponge, they might go like this, like this. They're not going to touch everywhere. But if you start by teaching, like someone pointed out, and say you go round and round in a circular motion. Secondly, dip it in so the debris can get a bit soft. You go round and round, do the front, do the back, then you rinse it, and lastly, check if there's any soap on the body or stain before you put it on the drying rack. You can say this with your mouth and show it a couple of times. You might even have a washing plate, washing dishes chat. Of course, that would make it even much easier so that whether you're there or not, they can equally verify for themselves. But just teaching something as simple as washing plates can go a long way in whether they'll do it well the first time or the next couple of times. And if you have to inspect every single plate they have washed, ideally, when you're teaching children things, you would want to start off by let them watching let them watch you doing that particular thing. So they've probably seen you wash plates a number of times and they're happy, or they want to start washing too. So they've seen you doing it. The next time you can do it together with them. Next time, let them try while you supervise. And lastly, you can now stand back and just say, oh, try and wash this, or just, you say it confidently. Can you wash this plate and put it in the drying rack. I can help you if you need help. Just ask for help, something like that, right? And then you see them do it happily, and they do it well most of the times, right? As long as they have the abilities already, the skills. And what are those abilities? If they can move their hand in a circular motion, even when they are playing with their toys, then they can also move their hands on a plate. So sometimes what we perceive as children's abilities, we not realize that they're actually more capable than we think. If we observe them during their playtime, the things they do, once you see certain skills they have, you will know that they are very transferable to real life things. That's why I think last week we talked about how your children don't need more toys; they just need real life activities. They need to participate more in what is happening in their environment. Yes, correction would be less, right? If teaching is done at the right time before you give them an activity, you teach them. Don't assume that they automatically know, or that because they are a certain age they should know. I saw a video the other time. Someone had posted, oh, this is how you sweep. You hold the broom at the top and the bottom. And I saw in the comments people were saying, wow, thank you for showing us this. That Sometimes we just grow into adults or we grow into older children, and then all of a sudden it's like you have this responsibility, you have these chores, and nobody actually takes the trouble to show you that the positioning of the broom, for instance, or how you hold the soap, how you hold the sponge, to wash plate, something simple can actually make a difference in whether it is done well, whether the thing is seen as a very big task or not. So teaching and also making sure that the child can control the error by themselves, that they can tell. They should be able to say when they are right or when they are wrong. And in very few occasions, they can ask you, oh, is this correct? And even when they ask you, is this correct? Don't be in a hurry to say yes or no, because you make it look as if the answers are just in your head because you're an adult. When I've probably shared how our daughter asked, oh, what is 1 plus 2? I could have easily said it's 3. At least it's a simple question. She didn't ask me 100 and something plus another 1,000 or whatever. It was just 1 plus 2. I could have simply said 3. But I said, oh, I'm going to show you. So what is the essence of that? When I show her, then she knows that next time if she's thinking of 1 plus 3, 3 plus 4, she can add it in so and so way, and she can confirm if it is correct or not. She doesn't have to keep asking me as the superstar mommy that knows the answer to everything, right? So the way we respond to their questions, making sure that as much as possible, if they ask you a question, if they ask you a question, think about what is the answer and how can they find out the answer for themselves next time, so that you don't have to keep either generating these answers because of your experience or generating these answers because you just know better. Let them know that answers are not just manufactured, they come from somewhere, and they can tell whether they are right or wrong, because this will now make them to be able to work on their own whether you're there or not. Imagine if they cannot easily tell when they've done something correctly. It means, if you're not there, they might not be interested in doing that thing, because when they get halfway, right, who is going to check their work for them? They should be able to check their work for themselves as much as possible. And that is really the definition of control of error. They should be able to control their own error. Um, Another thing is, the second thing you should do to reduce the need for frequent correction is proactive lessons. So we've talked about teaching. If you see that, oh, maybe you want the child to start getting involved in a certain activity, then it's time to teach them that activity, especially if you've seen that they've started showing interest. Because when they start showing interest in something, it means that in a matter of time, in just a short matter of time, they're going to go into that thing by themselves. Let's say they start getting interested in painting or coloring, and you don't bring out a dedicated space for painting. You don't show them, oh, these are the ones you can use, this is where you paint, this is where you color, you use paper, you don't paint on the walls, you don't paint on tables. If you do not show them where the appropriate place, when you've seen they already have that interest, then they are going to choose their own appropriate place. That's when you start seeing them drawing on the walls, painting very nice canvases for you. Right? But if you see the interest and you get proactive and say, oh, they've started showing interest in this thing, they like this, let me show them how to do it now before they will show themselves. Because ultimately they have to keep moving. I see your line for you've joined us. Thank you for joining us. Yes, so we need to teach proactively, very key. Some other time, then the third part is incorporate your corrections in future lessons. So instead of in the moment trying to fix everything, no, yes, bend this, hold this, don't hold this, do this one like that. Actually take notes. That's why we have an observation journal. If you're part of our program, we have the 12 months observation journal. But even if you're not part of the program, you should get a journal for your children, especially 0 to 6, to really keep track of their interests and some of these mistakes that you see and you want to correct, because you can't even correct everything in the moment. You're going to be talking and talking, and from talking to yelling, from yelling to frustration for everybody, and there is no learning taking place, right? So um in your journal you can easily write. So I've probably shared this a number of times. We have the journal where you can just document, okay, she has shown interest in this, he has shown interest in this. It seems like they are struggling with this aspect. Let me pick something, like each time they are sorting out the cutlery, they put the spoons and the knives together instead of separating it. So I'm going to show them officially that this is where the knife goes, this is where the spoon goes. If you have our prepared environment guide, of course, you will also know sometimes simply putting a label is one of the biggest control of errors you can do. So if I label, let's say my background now, I say, I have a label and say, this is the label for our logo, and this is the label for the Igbo alphabets. It means that even if I step away from the office, if I step away from here, and everything is pulled down from the wall, somebody can come back and label and put the items back where they should go because there's a label for it, right? So The same thing with children. You take note of what they are doing. If you haven't already taught them a particular thing, then incorporate it in a future lesson. Um, I'll share another example with reading. So, like when our daughter started reading, in the first few months, I didn't give any correction. Like I didn't even start saying, "Oh no, it's not A, it's B, it's this." If you do that, you're going to see someone who was eagerly asking you, "Teach me to read, teach me to read." They'll suddenly just lose interest in books. If they see books, they'll turn the other direction, right? So for the first few months, we just focused on okay, teaching her sounds, and then gradually introducing her to very, very simple books, like over simple, that may just have a few words and most importantly, phonetic words, right? So things like cat, bats that are easy to read, and because reading, let's say apple, or reading cat versus reading ape, right? So ape has the A sound, which is not the phonetic sound of letter A. We're looking at the R sound. So if I'm giving her books where she has to start choosing between does this one say R or does it say A, that's already a challenge, right? So for the first few months, we just focused on very simple letters, very simple sounds, and very simple words. Before we even started talking about anything correction was when she was already somewhat comfortable. Instead, what I would do is if I find out that oh, whenever she sees this particular sound, she calls it this sound, I will just note it down. And then the next day or the next few days, I'll say, "Oh, I'm going to show you two new sounds. I'm going to show you some special sounds." And I'll say, look at, maybe I'll draw letter D, and I'll say this says D. So in that moment that she was making that mistake, I'm not going to tell her, no, it's not B, it's D, it's not this. Once you start saying no, 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 and cutting them off, before you know it, you'll see their countenance will start changing, their interest will start dropping, and the next thing is like, they're now on edge, right, waiting for this lesson to end. The next time you say, "Don't you want to play with your letters?" And nope, they are not interested. They lose interest very, very fast, right? So this is not about pampering children. This is not about this is not a gentle parenting thing. I know someone may start saying, "Oh, all these gentle people have come again." It is not about gentle parenting. This is more about, I'll call it smart education, right? Ultimately, you want them to love learning. I say this over and over again. And really, the Montessori approach is about allowing children to continue to build their love of learning because they want to learn, they want to teach themselves. But our interference, a lot of times, is what makes them to begin to see learning or academics as something that is stressful, something that just reminds them of how incapable they are. Because, of course, when you're frequently correcting somebody, it has a way of showing that you are not enough, you're not good at what you're doing. And I need to keep telling you what to do for a very long time until you finally decide to have some sense, right? Which is not good. Nobody likes that, even a child. So plan, take note of some corrections you want to make. If they are not destroying anything, three checkpoints. If they are not hurting themselves, they are not hurting other people, and they are not hurting the environment or property, then it is not an emergency. You can plan it and incorporate it into another lesson. So that by the time she started reading a little more confidently, and she was now picking up some books that were somewhat above her age, then of course it is expected that she will stumble on some words that she couldn't easily read, or some words that were not phonetically written. Like maybe you will have even education, for instance. So the E in education already is not the phonetic like elephant or egg. So she might call it edu or something else, right? So when she starts stumbling on those words, if we're reading a page because she picked it up already, if she says it, I'll just take note, right? And then I might now say, "Oh, mommy is going to have a turn," and then we'll read it again, right? So she will pick. Thank you very much for noting that. So we'll pick I may just pick the words, and or even sometimes if it's if a number of pages that we're reading through, I might actually time myself and say, in the moment or throughout this reading session, I'm going to make only two corrections. I might just say, "Oh, education. Oh, that's." Sometimes I'll even say education. That's correct, right? So you're trying to focus that positive spirit, that confidence. Confidence, I tell people, is so key. It's something you do not want to tamper with, right? This is not about pampering. So let's just get that part straight. If you want to be smart, if you want to make sure you're not quenching their fire, this is something that you have to take seriously and plan ahead of time. Of course, this is not correction of all sorts of behaviors. We're focused on education for now. There's a whole lot of exceptions here and there, but really you have to choose your battles and plan instead. Be proactive, teach in advance, or teach post the event, so that they can learn better and actually implement it or practice what you have taught, instead of just trying to correct or breaking their concentration when they are learning. So those are three main things you need to do to reduce the need for correction in the first place. Now, Going to the other topics, when do we correct a child and how do we correct a child? So I also have about 3 points here when to correct a child. So if it's an emergency, of course, you intervene immediately. If they're breaking something, if they start flinging a toy, they've probably lost interest. It's time to say, oh, stop. This is for writing, this is for drawing. We don't fling it. You take it away. There's no negotiation or discussion or something about that. Of course, that's already a correction. But even at that, you still have to make a plan, find out why were they flinging this, right? And you still have to teach after the fact. So, but in the moment, you must intervene, you must correct just sufficiently, as much as they can even hear you, because if there's a tantrum going on, you're just talking, talking, talking. Everybody's wasting their time. So that's one thing. If it's an emergency, of course, you step in immediately, correct. The second one is wait till they are done with an activity before you make corrections. So that is why you have to make observations. If you're just looking with your eyes, you might forget all the corrections you wanted to make, right? So that's why it's okay to have a notebook. Yeah, you prefer to use a notebook or a journal rather than having your phone, for instance, because there's this tendency if you're using your phone, they might not on the, you might look distracted to them, even if you're typing on a notepad on your phone. If you're also recording them right in their faces and they can see it, they might begin to perform. So they actually start losing concentration. Sometimes I know my daughter has actually asked, oh, mommy, can you record me doing this, right? And then the way she does the thing is not the same way she would have naturally done it, right? So sometimes I'll say, okay, I've taken a picture. Let's continue, right? I'll just make sure the phone is very far away and you see her doing what she wants to do for a longer period of time and doing it very well. So that's why I'll definitely recommend have a journal, have a notebook for taking notes. If they are going to do an activity and you want to make sure, okay, you can correct them at some point, make sure that they have finished the activity and let them come to the conclusion of the matter. So I'm going to share an example. I think so. Our daughter was trying to put something in the microwave, and there was a spoon still in the plate while she was going to put it. So I checked and I saw, okay, I could correct her and say, bring the spoon out. Spoon doesn't go in the microwave, but I just watched till I actually watched till she was about to close the door of the microwave. So when she put the plate, the spoon was still there. I was just looking, right? And then she was about to close it, and then she noticed the spoon. Of course, if she had closed, I would have opened it up before she pressed start, right? So I timed it. I know that this is not. So I checked it and I saw she saw, oh, she said, oh, there's a spoon here. So she brought it out, which means she knew that a spoon shouldn't even be there. But of course, I could still plan a lesson and say, this doesn't go in the microwave because of X, Y, Z. Um, of course, this is not a microwave conversation. I know some people might have some opinions about microwaves, but the point is waiting till the end of the activity or waiting till I was absolutely sure that she didn't know that it was right or wrong to have a spoon, a metallic spoon in the microwave. Now, what does that do? Her correcting herself actually means that the next time that has to come up, she would most likely be able to self check herself and see if there's any utensils left. However, if I had jumped in and said, take out the spoon, take out this, take out that, the next time she's doing it, she already knows that, oh, mom is going to vet whatever she's doing. So she's just going to put it blindly and I'll tell her again, take out this. Or, it just keeps going over and over again. So anytime you actually correct your child for something that they would have been able to correct themselves, you have lost the learning opportunity, which means it's going to come back again. And then you have to now choose, are you going to correct them or are you going to let them learn the right way? So just make sure we're not losing learning opportunities by jumping in too fast. Wait until they are done. If it's a puzzle that they are doing, even if they are going to get it wrong, failure is actually a very good teacher, a very good tool. Sometimes by failing, that is how they realize that, oh, this is not correct. Imagine they are trying to put a puzzle piece and you say, no, no, bend it like this, turn it like that, then they lose the opportunity to actually think of how they would have bent it. So tomorrow they are going to be looking up to you. And in fact, if you do it often enough, they are going to start asking you, can I bend it? It's almost like taking permission to even move their hands, right? You don't want that because now you're looking at their independence going backwards, you're looking at their confidence going backwards. So correction is really something that's why I said it's something that is so critical. If you're not cautious of it, if you're not aware of how to do it and when to do it, it can actually make a mess of certain things that you're working on and that the child would have done happily by themselves, right? So wait till they are done before making corrections, and while they are doing the thing, take notes, right? To now use it to either talk to them after the activity or when they ask you and say, oh, this didn't work, I don't know, you can now propose, oh, could you try this or have you tried that? Don't take over and do it for them, let them still try. It is by trying that they learn. Anytime you take over, anytime you hurry to correct, just know you're coming back to that activity again another day to deal with the same issue. So the third point about when to correct is offer to repeat the same activity with them on the same day, or let them know that you show them something new about this activity, right? If they struggle, like for instance, with the microwave example, I might say, oh, this spoon, I'm going to remind me, I'm going to show you some things that we can put in the microwave and some things that we cannot put in the microwave. So that already, I haven't even talked about this is right or wrong. I'm just giving her a heads up, right? There are actually some things that go and some things that do not go. And then we can have an entire lesson all around it. We're going to talk about materials that are used for making utensils. We're going to talk about what's, how does the microwave work? Why is this okay? Why is this not okay? You enter a full science lesson, right? There's so much more benefits that can come when you plan it as a lesson than when you just dive in and correct, because you're going to be correcting for a long time. So, we've talked about, should you correct? What should you do to prevent the need to correct so often? When should you correct? So now we're going to talk about how do you correct? One of the first things is improving the control of error. So if, for example, something already had a way of knowing whether it is right or wrong, but you see that they are still struggling with it, it might be time to revisit that situation and say, oh, it looks like for example, washing hands. We've had some challenges where it's like, oh, they start washing their hands with just water and then they run away. And I'm wondering why they were washing their hands properly with water and soap, let's say after using the washroom. So now there is this forgetting or some other mix-up going on. And then we print a chart that shows the steps for washing hands, similar to one that they have in school. And it made a big difference because now they want to follow the chart. They would, oh, water first, then soap first, this, and enjoying washing the towel, drying the hands with the towel, right? The same thing for even using the toilet itself. We eventually got, when we saw that there were some steps that were just getting mixed up or missed, we decided, okay, they may have learned this, but maybe there is need for a little bit more of control of error so that they can check themselves and know when they are properly done, right? So improving the control of error is one of the ways you can use to make corrections, right? It's making a correction, but it's not you saying or jumping in and interfering unnecessarily. The second thing is asking their opinion of what went wrong. When you ask for their opinion of what went wrong, or if they say, oh, something is not fitting, I might ask, oh, why? What do you think is happening? Why is it not fitting? So be slow to provide answers. Stop providing solutions so eagerly and just showing your superstar nature because you're an adult and you know so many things, right? Let them be able to figure things out for themselves as much as possible. Ask them, why do they think something didn't work? Oh, a puzzle is refusing to be solved. Why? Someone might say, oh, the piece is broken, or maybe it has to bend the other way, or maybe I don't have enough pieces. Whatever it is, let them think. Then you just guide them just enough to be able to figure things out, right? If it's something that they can even read in a book, they can see, like we had when one of our daughters was asking so many questions about how something works, we eventually just got a book on how things work. I think by National Geographic Kids. So she had asked, was it how microwaves work or how something else works? I said, oh, one of your books answers this question. Let's go and check it. Right. So even if I know, or even if I don't know, then we can read about it together. We can see the pictures, and it makes it, what is teaching them now is, you don't have to know everything, but you should know at least where to get the answers to things, right? And it gets them to think more. It gets them to trust themselves more, to be more confident in their abilities, knowing that even if they don't know something, it's not the end of the world, but they can find out. They don't have to always rely on mommy and daddy. And if mommy and daddy are not there, then they now feel very helpless, right? Children are not helpless, right? They have a lot of things that they are capable of doing if we allow them to practice things according to their ability and skills, right? So improve their control of error, ask their opinion. And I think the third thing, or the ultimate thing you really want to do is prepare yourself as an adult. So get the training. Of course, we've said multiple times, being part of our Montessori home education program, you get to participate in how the whole Montessori method works with a lot of things that you're doing, and then prepare your environment, right? So if your environment is set up in a way that they know, let's say by simply labeling some things. If you label, I know we had in the kitchen we did a little labeling here and there for, let's say, this is where flat plates go, this is where the children's food flasks go, this is where that goes. It actually made a big difference in how we sort things out, let's say from the dishwasher or from the sink or from the dish rack. whenever it is done. So now the kids are actually, so both the 4-year-old and 2-year-old, they're actually able to help to empty things so they can reach it. Preparing the environment means it is accessible to the children, and they also know where things go. So for the one that can read, she can read the label and say, this is where flat plates goes, and she puts it. The one that cannot read, by looking at the pictures, or even because I think like one of the pictures, I wrote cups and then I drew a cup. So if you cannot read cups, you can see the picture of a cup. That still helps. You know that this is where cups go. So you'll see that even a 2-year-old can help with something that looks like is so complex, just because first she has learned how to hold some of these items carefully, even if it's breakable. So ceramic is breakable for sure, but you've taught them how to hold this carefully. They're not going to fling it. They know it should not be flung. And if they are, then you have to do some. If you still find that they are tossing things or not treating things properly, then of course you have to put them out of reach until you have shown them and allowed them multiple opportunities to practice. So putting labels is one way of preparing the environment such that the control of error is there and you don't have to keep correcting. Who put cups here? Who put spoons here? This is not where it goes. If you're looking for something in the kitchen, you're searching forever. If you're looking for books, you're searching forever. If you're looking for specific items for teaching them and all that, or even if they want to tidy up, they are putting everything everywhere because there is just no guidance for where it goes, right? So being a prepared adult, having a prepared environment can go a very long way. If you haven't seen our video that we did last year on that, please make sure you do. If you don't have our guides, also that's a very good way to get it, because you have the sensitive periods guide and the prepared environment guide 2 in 1 that actually shows you some different things you can do around your home to make it to kind of incorporate the control of error in your environment, and equally to allow the children to now love to learn and teach themselves because they know when they are right and they know when they are wrong, right? So I think I already shared about the how to correct. One more example I wanted to say was, let's say for younger children. So here I have pom poms, one of our favorite materials. So imagine that we were teaching a child about colors and we've already shown her all the different colors, or him all the different colors, and then I'll say, oh, give me a yellow pom pom, and the child goes and brings the pink one, right? So one of the things I learned during my training that really stuck with me is, the response for such a situation, if a child gives you the wrong color, is, oh, thank you for giving me the pink pom pom. Now can you bring the yellow pom pom? And then if she already knew or he already knew the color but maybe mixed it up, then they might now pick the right color and give it to you. Ideally, of course, it won't be an entire basket of pom pom. Maybe there'll be 3 or 2, and then you're saying, oh, pick up the blue pom pom, and then they pick yellow. You say, thank you for the yellow pom pom. What is that doing? It's reinforcing the fact that what they picked is yellow. So you have actually done a correction by saying, what you have right now and you've given to me is yellow pom pom, and they are going to notice, right? So can I have the pink pom pom? If they pick the blue one again, thank you for the blue pom pom. Can I have the pink one now? And then they give you the pink one because there is no other option. But what have you done in that process? You have not tampered with their confidence. You have not shamed them because they didn't know something that they're meant to learn anyways. But now they know that these are the actual colors of what you were asking for, right? So those are very helpful ways to implement correction without just being so direct or without tampering with their interest in what you're trying to teach them, or the love you're trying to build in their learning. Validate their effort, very 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 true, before you correct them. It's very important to validate what they have already done. So, oh, at least you brought me a pom pom, right? Saying no, oh, definitely saying no. We know that it takes a skill, very serious skill, for children to learn to even accept the word no. That one is a topic for another day, right? So you don't want to just be throwing it around anyhow and making it look like they don't know what they're doing, right? So for the one that they have done, you acknowledge it. Thank you for giving me this one, right? This is what you have given to me. Can you now give me the other one? And even if they don't get it, you can say, oh, I'm going to pick up the blue one now. You emphasize blue and you move on. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes it's because one of the reasons why we feel that pressure to correct is because we are working with a timeline. We have this timeline in our minds that, oh, they need to learn this now, now, now. Maybe we had one child that was doing wonders somewhere and we start wondering, what is our own child doing, right? And then all of a sudden you now come, we need to learn these colors now. And so when they're acting somewhat slower than you expect, you start getting frustrated, you start getting agitated. So please let us try to manage our frustration. If we feel that way when we are teaching, it means it is time to stop, please. it is very important to actually say, oh, let us continue this another day. You can even say you're feeling tired, whatever it is. I just started, I think we need a little break. Let's continue this tomorrow. Sometimes, again, I may have shared at some point where my daughter was having some math lessons because she showed interest, right, in doing some operations, but then she was lying down looking tired. I said, "You look tired. Let's do this another day." She said, "No, no." I said, "No, you're tired because I know if we continue this, it's either I get frustrated or she gets frustrated." So I said, pick a book, do something else, color something. We're going to do this math thing another day, right? So you also, as a parent, perceive it and know that it's not the end of the world. They don't need to learn something in one. In fact, a lot of times it's not easy to just learn something in one day. Repetition is very essential. In fact, it's much more important that you break down a 5 minute lesson into 2 minutes over 2 days than trying to cram it in that 5 minutes and um, making them lose their interest in the activity. So I think generally we've been able to cover, right, correcting your child, when and how you should do it, if you should even do it in the first place, and some of the things you need to set in place, like having a prepared environment, being a prepared adult yourself. Learn about the Montessori method. It's a very fantastic method, or anything similar to it. I think that would also work, right? So just be aware of some of the benefits, right, of these some of these little principles here and there that can go a long way. You might know how to teach your child, but then if you're missing out on maybe how you talk to them, how you show respect to them and for their abilities, how you correct them, it can be hindering your progress in your home education journey, or even if they are going to school, just the time you spend with them teaching. If you feel like it's frequently frustrating, then you might be missing a few ingredients here and there. I also wanted to announce that we have our self-paced program now on and available for you to purchase. So if you missed joining the Montessori Home Education program that started in January, we now have the self-paced on-demand program, which means you go at your own pace. The link is in the video description. The price will actually go up soon, so you don't want to miss it. If you had actually planned to join at some point, that is the best time. The details are on the website. I think the main difference is that there are no live sessions and you go at your own pace, right? But you still get to have a support group to ask questions as long as you're subscribed to the program. And we also have our guides available. So we're equally looking forward to some feedback. If you have the guides, let us know how it is going for you, and if you've been able to implement certain things in your home, that will be very helpful. So if you have any questions, feel free to share. If you have learned something, make sure you share this in your community, in your networks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. It actually means that other people get to see these videos, because that's how the YouTube recommendations work. Feel free to share this with your networks, and of course, we'll connect again next week on a very interesting topic as usual. There's always something interesting to discuss when it comes to Montessori, and I hope you did get some value. So I'll see you all again next week. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you joined too. Thank you. You're all welcome. Thank you so much. That is great. That is great. Remember to implement. Remember to implement the little you learned. Make a plan today. What are you going to do immediately? Don't procrastinate. Don't postpone. Just pick one thing and run with it, as they say, right? Just pick one thing and start immediately. What can you change today? And share with somebody who will also benefit from this. The links I mentioned for the guides and the program are all in the video description. I'll put a comment as well. All right. Take care, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.